Almost 10 years ago, I prayed for my marriage to work, and it didn't. And for a long time, there I am, talking to a God that I truly believe is good. I truly believe is sovereign. I believe he actually hears me and cares what I have to say. And the answer was still no. It wasn't not yet. It was no. I think a lot of us have a no story. And I think most of us have never actually sat with it long enough to see what was on the other side of it. You know, looking back, I think I was probably praying more for the marriage than the people in it. Because my reasoning was solid. We had kids, and I wanted my kids to have an intact home. I wanted to be present every day. I wanted the thing that I was praying for to work, and God said no. And when it ended, I knew what was coming. 50-50 custody, which means half the time with my kids was gone. That was the way I looked at it. Yeah, I'd been with my kids full time every day, and that was just my life. And the thought of losing half of that was the wound that was under the wound. You know, I didn't just grieve the marriage. I grieved what I thought I was about to lose as a dad. And I was right that things were going to change. I was completely wrong about what that change was going to produce. Because here's what I didn't expect. When I only had my kids half the time, I became a better dad. Not because I was trying harder and not because they only had half of me, but because I became intentional in a way that I'd never been before. You know, when you know that time is finite, when you know Thursday night matters, when you know the weekend is yours and you better show up, you stop sleepwalking through it. And I started planning experiences. I started making adventures. Started putting my phone down differently. I started actually being there instead of just being present in the same house. And we've got a massive game closet because we started spending more time doing stuff together and more time talking. And the kids' mom and I we're better apart than we were together. We're probably better co-parents than we were as parents under the same roof. And she's happier and I'm happier. We do some holiday dinners together, but we're not spending those holiday dinners frustrated. The kids aren't watching two people white knuckling a relationship that stopped working and wasn't going to work. I prayed for my marriage to survive for my kids, and God said no. And I became a better dad because of it. And I didn't see that coming. Well, God did. And there's a verse that I keep coming back to, Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. I had plans. They made sense to me. I had a picture in my head of what good looked like, you know, an intact home, kids under one roof, marriage that worked. God just had a different picture. And his picture included a version of me as a father, as a dad, that my plan might never have produced. Isaiah 55 verse 8 says it very plainly. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." You know, God has a better view of things than we do. He's an infinite God. He has a better, a higher view than we do. When I was praying for my marriage to hold together, I was praying from the ground. I was praying from a place of fear, of loss, of what I could see in front of me. And God was working from somewhere I couldn't see. And that's not a comfortable thought in the moment. It's actually kind of frustrating when we're in that moment, because in the moment, you don't have the view. You don't have all the facts. You just have the no. And I think about this a lot. You know, looking back, I can trace the line. The no to my marriage led to a recalibration of my time. That recalibration of my time made me more intentional. That intentionality made me more present. And that presence built something with my kids that I'm not sure I would have built the other way around. And so now what felt a lot like loss then, now it feels a lot like grace. And now 9 years later, I'm feeling a lot of grace, and I'm seeing God work in ways I didn't expect, making sense of things I didn't even know were going to make sense later on. And that's the thing about God's no that's hardest to explain to someone who's still in the middle of their no. It's hard for someone to accept, just trust it, when they're sitting in the wreckage. But the no that I was afraid of produced something I never would have chosen for myself. And I wouldn't have been able to engineer on my own, because it wasn't self-help. It was sovereignty. It was a sovereignty of a good Father. And Jesus talks about a good Father. He makes an argument in Matthew 7. He says, which of you, if your son asks for bread, would give him a stone, or if he asks for a fish, would give him a snake? He says, if you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? Now, it doesn't say the Father in heaven will give all gifts to those who ask him. It's good gifts. The point isn't that every prayer gets a yes. The point is that the Father that's giving the answer is good. And so when the answer is no, it's not abandonment. It's not punishment. It's not God not caring. It's not God being indifferent to what you're asking. It's a good Father who can see further than you can. And here's the thing about prayer that I think a lot of us get backwards. We treat it like a transaction. I bring my request. God delivers or he doesn't, and I evaluate his performance. I give him 2 stars or 5 stars, and we repeat. But prayer was never designed to be a vending machine. It's not supposed to be transactional. When we pray, we need to be real. Not polished, not performing, but real. And the Bible tells us what real looks like. It gives us permission to be real and honest. The Psalms are full of lament, and lament is a Bible word that means complaining in honesty. And the Psalms are full of, God, where are you? God, where did you go? God, why is this happening? God, I don't understand what you're doing. There's a whole book in the Bible called Lamentations, just a whole book of people being honest about pain. 2/3 of the Psalms are laments. God is telling us that not only can he handle our honest, he wants our honest. He wants that in prayer. But the most important part of prayer, the part that changes everything, is getting to the place where you actually surrender the outcome. Not as a technique, not as some sly strategy to get what you want, but genuinely saying, God, you're in the driver's seat. I'll tell you how I feel. I'll tell you where I want to go, but I will trust you with the route. And that's the part I wasn't doing. I was praying for an outcome that I'd already decided on. God was listening. He just had a different destination in mind. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Lean not on your own understanding. Don't make all your decisions based on what you know. And that's the hard part, because my understanding told me exactly what needed to happen. My understanding had a whole plan. My understanding had this narrative, and it was good. It made sense. It was right. But guess what? My understanding was incomplete, and I was wrong. It's the honest limitation of being a human with a finite view, looking at a situation that a sovereign, good, infinite God can see fully. We lean on our own understanding because it's all we have access to in the moment. And for some of us, it's all we trust. But the invitation is to say, here's what I see, here's what I want, here's what I feel, here's what I think is best. And then add those words of trust that change everything. But not my will, but yours be done. Now, it's not always a nice story with a tidy bow on it, is it? God being sovereign doesn't mean that everything that happens is what God wanted. Evil is evil. Pain is real. Not every hard thing that happens is God engineering some lesson for us to learn. But God being good means he doesn't waste any of it. Romans 8:28, in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Not God works for the outcome that you wanted. It's God works for good. And there's a difference. It might not be the outcome that we wanted or prayed for, but God can work it into something good. Not perfectly clean, not without a plan, not overnight. Sometimes, yes, but mostly not overnight, but good. Because that's who he is. So if you're sitting in the middle of a no right now, a relationship that didn't survive, a job that didn't come through, a door that closed when you were sure that it was supposed to be open, a healing, prayer for healing that didn't heal. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't hurt. But I will tell you this, the no might be exactly where the grace is hiding. You just don't have the view yet. And you might not have it for a while. And maybe that's just what trust is. Not certainty about the outcome, but faith in the one who can see it. Faith in the one who can see it as a good Father who wants the best for us. Now, if this hits something for you, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment. Tell me your no story. Tell me where you're sitting right now. And if this is the kind of honest conversation you want more of, subscribe to the channel. I don't post very often, not going to, but that's what this channel is. It's not religion. It's not performance, not pretending. It's just about imperfect people trying to grow. And I'm still in that category. But I am so grateful for every no that got me here.